For this activity, you're going to need the following supplies. You'll need markers, a pencil, and your Ohlone notebook. Okay, so to start this unit off, I'm going to go ahead and write my name. Get some lead there. Write my name on the front cover. All right, so go ahead and write your name and your number. Got to stay in practice with that. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and turn the page. And before I start my notes, I'm actually going to number my pages quickly so that I know what pages my teacher expects me to work on. So I'm going to do that in the bottom right-hand corner. And I'm going to label that page 1. And then the back of that page is going to be page 2. And then I'm going to keep going. Page 3. Page 4, page 5, page 6, 7, and 8. All right, so go ahead and number your pages. For today's activity, we're going to be using page 1. So I'll go ahead and flip to that. And I'm going to title it, just like the map video showed, I'm going to title this Bay Area Native Tribes. And I'll go ahead and underline that. Since it's a title, I did capitalize each letter at the beginning of each word. So just like our other map showed, we didn't draw the entire state of California, we drew a zoomed in version. So just to remind myself what the state looks like up here, I'm going to draw just a tiny little version of California. It has a flat top, and then it goes down straight on both sides, okay? And then it comes out at an angle like that. And then we have the bay here. Okay, and then kind of a wiggly line down and then a wiggly line connecting. There's our state. All right, so this is California. I'll go ahead and abbreviate. And then I, of course, am circling in on right here. And we call this the Bay Area. Okay, Bay Area. And I'll just draw a little arrow to show that we're zooming in on that. Okay, since we're zooming in on that, I'm going to go ahead and draw that part that we're zooming in on. And you are going to be using the entire piece of paper. So if your map doesn't take up the entire piece of paper, you might want to erase it and redraw. Okay, so I'm going to start over here. I'm going to draw this sort of flat line here. So I'm going to go straight down. And then I'm going to draw the bay. And it's sort of like a 3-fingered situation here. And it looks like it's going to touch, but it doesn't. And that's what makes it a bay. And then we're going to kind of make a jagged line like that. Okay. This is, of course, the bay. Okay. We call that a bay. It's water that comes into the land. And since it's a little bit closed off, it's not as rough of waters as it would be if it was just the coast. And of course, you remember that our ocean that we border on is called the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to use my blue marker to label the Pacific Ocean. Okay, Pacific Ocean. And I did, of course, capitalize that because it is a proper noun. And the Pacific Ocean is all along this left side of our paper, of our map. Okay, so there's our Pacific Ocean. And now we're going to label a few of the tribes that live in different parts of our Bay Area. And we're going to actually start with the northern tribes, the northwestern tribes, and they live in the redwood forest. So before I label them, I'm just going to draw a few redwood trees. I'm going to do that with my green marker, and I'm just going to go like this and then do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to make a few more of those. Not super big. just large enough to show that there are some redwood trees there. Redwood trees have brown stems or reddish stems, so I'm going to use my brown marker and make the trunk like this. Okay, and I might even label it with that brown marker. This is a redwood forest. Okay, this is a redwood forest. All right, and the tribes that live up there in the redwood forest, I'm actually going to use my pink marker because I think it'll really pop. We have the Pomo people, P-O-M-O, the Pomo people. They are the ones who had that wonderful folktale about the coyote and the grasshoppers that we read. And down here, a little closer to the part of the bay here would be the Miwok tribe. Miwok, M-I-W-O-K. All right, those are the Miwok people, and they use the redwood forest and the coast to provide all of their resources. All right, and then we're going to go down to the South Bay a bit. So this is the northern part of the bay. We're going to come down here to the South Bay, and I'm going to use that pink marker again. And I'm going to label, these are the Costanoans. I'm actually going to turn my paper a bit like this and write their name, Costanoan, which is interesting. It looks like cost. Okay, cost, but it's Costanoan. Okay, the Costanoans, they lived along the edge of the water here, right on the bay. Actually, excuse me, not on the bay, right on the coast below the bay. And they used the water for their resources, but they also lived very close to the coastal mountain range, which would be like Santa Cruz area. So I'm going to draw some mountains here with my brown marker. I'm going to draw these mountains. They're not at the coast. There's a little space. Okay, they're right there. And these are the coastal mountains. Okay, so I remember the Costanoans because they live along the coastal mountains. Well, on the other side of the Costanoans and up in this region right here are where we are located here in Fremont. Okay, so let's label a couple more things before we get to our tribe. First, we need to we need to draw in an important river, which is the American River. So right here in this middle inlet here, we're going to draw kind of a swirly line all the way across the paper. And that is the American River, part of the Sacramento Delta, which brings water to the bay from the mountains. So when it snows up there in Lake Tahoe, okay, we're getting that runoff through the American River right down into our part of the bay. Okay, now we are located, Fremont is right over here in this part. All right, and in Fremont, we have a couple of things. So to label the few resources that we have, I'm going to grab my green and my brown markers. Okay, and at first I'm going to draw some hills. We have some beautiful hills here in Fremont, and you probably know Mission Peak, etc. So I'm just going to draw a couple hills here. And sometimes the hills are brown, but most of the time in the winter, if it's rained, they turn green, right? So I'll just put a little green section right above that to show sometimes they're green. Okay, that's where those tule elk and other creatures would eat, and then the Ohlone were able to hunt them. The other thing we have, since we're so close to the wetlands here, would be tule grass. All right, so first of all, I'm going to label this right here, wetlands. Okay, those are the wetlands where water, the bay water meets the land. There's very specific creatures who can live in these conditions, all right? But one of the most important things they get is something called tule grass. So I'm going to draw it just sort of a few brown sticks here. And when it's dried, it turns like a yellowish brown, but when it's growing, it's green. So I'm just going to use that green marker to highlight that one more time. All right, and it's here that our Ohlone people lived, and some still do. So I'm going to go ahead and label it in pink. O-O-H, Lo-Ne. Okay, and that's who we're really focusing on over the next few weeks. I'm going to take my yellow marker to show what I really want to zoom in on here. So I'm going to zoom in on this section right here. Okay, that's what we're really focusing on, the people who lived in just this region right here. As long as you've completed this map, your page in the notebook for this page, page 1, is complete. Just make sure you have all of the parts before you move on. Thanks, guys.